can just about see in my shop. Is that related to the approach that you take when you're taking people through this journey? And could you expand upon what you've got there?
So it's actually called the Masterpiece Pathway, and it emerged out of some work that I was doing on one of our retreats a couple of years ago. And it's a map, actually, and it's a fractal map. So you can read it on multiple different levels, and the levels you could read it on, believe it or not, the entire history of the planet, the history of humankind, the history of business, the evolution of business, the story of an individual life, and the story of an individual masterpiece. So I'm not going to go into all of it because there's just too much. It's just layers and layers and layers and layers. And the more I explored it, the more it taught me. But what I can say is that if you start here, 200,000 years ago, humankind was born in the Great Rift Valley in Africa, somewhere around Kenya or Tanzania, according to what archaeologists will tell us. And actually, we've run retreats there. And we worked with some archaeologists. We bumped into some archaeologists. They were working just down the road, and we had a conversation. They were digging down this trench, and that was amazing. They literally handed us flints, which had been arrowheads 70,000 years ago. So 70,000 years ago, your and my ancestors did not have a conscious mind. We weren't conscious. What that means is that we were no more aware than a tree is that it's a tree. A leopard is not aware that it is separate from the Serengeti. It has no conscious awareness. What happened about 40,000 years ago, so this is where we're in the matriarchal system, right? Connected to all of it, no separation. Then about 40,000 years ago, the prefrontal cortex, it's a mutation, it starts to emerge, and it gives us awareness, a sense of separation, and also the larynx, and that gives us a sense of ability to communicate more effectively. And these two combined start us on this journey of separation, right? So this is the pathway of separation. Going from the feminine to, on this side, the kind of pinnacle of the masculine, if you like. And, it doesn't take a genius to look around and see that we're actually living in a relatively masculine-dominated world. I don't think there's many women in history who started wars. You can think of them, right? Cleopatra, Boadicea, Margaret Thatcher, maybe Joan of Arc. And then you think how many wars around the world, right? So we got on this journey of separation, and there are other points in here. For instance, 10,000 years ago, we start to settle down in villages, probably in the Fertile Crescent in Jordan, and we start to grow crops, and those crops give us the ability to store things, and the ability to store things is the first time we see any form of hoarding. So before that, everything is in a natural state of flow. So the 95% of the history of humankind, we have just been in a state of flow, basically part of it. But here we start to put ourselves very subtly above Mother Nature. And then 5,000 years ago, we created the first civilization, Sumer, which was a little bit to the east in Bombay, Iran, and Iraq. And there what we created was we created the first money system, we created the first power structures, ziggurats, slavery, we created the first marriage, which was not about love, it was about man, to the masculine, controlling the feminine, and being able to guarantee that he knew that was his child. And we also produced the first forms of time, so sand clocks and water clocks. And this to me is a pivotal moment in history. And then every subsequent civilization has basically moved us further this way, except now we appear to be going back. So if you think the pinnacle here is the industrial world, that we've gone from being part of everything to being a cog in a machine, we're actually moving back on this system now, on the pathway of integration. And that pathway we can see the evolution of big business, which first of all was very separated into silos, but then we started to add in HR departments and internal communications and marketing, the more softer feminine aspect as we moved back this way. And then we started to see with Silicon Valley really unlocking the creativity. So the likes of Google with their 20% time saying 20% of your time, 1 day a week, you work on any project you like, and so really unlocking that creativity. And we know that 50% of Google's innovation, Gmail and Calendar and Maps, that all came out of innovations from the engineers in Silicon Valley. And you can see the similar things happening in Amazon and Apple and really trying to flip this model upside down. And when I got involved with the internet in 97, I really saw this possibility that the internet would literally flip business upside down. And to some extent it did, but actually what it really did is accelerated the extractive system. So what we start to see is that more money is on the planet than ever, but it's also in fewer and fewer hands. So sometimes 40% of the world's wealth is held by 10 people, and 8 of those 10 form their company in Silicon Valley, and the other 2, I believe, are Indian. So we've got 10 people owning 40% of the world's wealth, and that to me is an equation that I feel uncomfortable with. And it's trapped behind a dam, right? And some of us have leapt over the dam, or we're moving back around this way. And what we're seeing is resistance as we move this way. And this model, so that's the journey. We're seeing resistance here, we're seeing resistance here. We're seeing his money drying up as we move this way. So some of us are moving to a more fractal model, a more natural model of the way that things work. So we're creating organizations a bit more like Patagonia, which is really based on unlocking the potential of the individual purpose, unlocking the creativity, but in a more natural way. So here, it's pinned around one individual. So if Elon decides I'm going this way, or if Jeff Bezos decides I'm going this way, the company goes one of those ways. And it's not particularly natural. Whereas when you actually create an organization a bit more like Patagonia, as Shu and I did, it is predicated on the idea that everyone can contribute. And a lot of the work we do is about moving organizations this way, helping individuals to move this way. But in order to do that, the real insight that we learned is you actually have to track back along the system, and you have to uncover all of the things that stop this natural flow. So if you look at a lifetime, you were actually born in a state, delta brainwaves, where we're connected to all of it. And through our life, we start to move this way into theta at the age of 2, alpha at the age of 7, beta at the age of 12.